welcome to our 50th season of Basic Black. Some of you are joining us on our broadcast, and others of you are joining us on Facebook. I'm CALLIE CROSSLEY, host of Under the Radar 89.7. Joining me are José Mateo, founder and artistic director of José Mateo Ballet Theatre. Artistic director of OrigiNation, Shaumba-Yandje Dibinga. Sean Appolon, co-founder and artistic director of Appolon Expressions, and Billy McLain of the Wondertwins. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm fond of a Maya Angelou quote, which she says, everything in the universe has rhythm, everything dances. And each of you represent a different genre in the world of dance. And I wanted you each to begin by just telling us, just briefly, what your genre is all about. So I'll start with you, Jose.
Well, I've founded an initiative called Dance for World Community, and so I'd like to think I'm about all genre because we include all genre. But my training and the company I founded are based on ballet, which is a very technical art form. So a lot of the dancing is done on the balls of your feet, often on one leg, and so it takes a long time before you master that level of balance. And so rhythm sometimes takes a while before it becomes internalized and something that feels and looks as natural as it does in other art forms. But I believe rhythm is one of those things that we all share in every genre.
Okay. Shaumba.
Our dancers are trained in hip-hop and contemporary, but their main focus is African dance because it birthed all of the other dance styles.
All right. Joan.
Myself, I grew up in Haiti, so the rhythm was pretty much in me since I grew up, since I was born in Haiti. But I pretty much was trained at a very early age. At the age of 12, I started ballet, basic ballet, and I came to the United States and to really see that my roots was very important as a traditional dancer.
And Billy.
Hip-hop. Oh, beautiful word. I feel like my style and our style as far as the Wondertwins, hip-hop is the spirit of the community. It's a reflection of the music. It's a reflection of our way of life and just how we are as a people. Yeah.
So let me pick up from that and ask this question because what is it that you bring to it as persons of color to the dance forms that each of you do, or that you see what is brought to dance itself when people of color bring their experience to the table? Sean, I'll start with you.
To me, I pretty much had great mentors in Haiti who told me about if you're going to do something, do it with your heart and do it with passion. So when I was training in Haiti, my dance teacher, my mentor, late Viviane Gauthier, told me that you have to really invest yourself into what you're doing. So to me, I feel like that's what I'm bringing now, teaching young kids and also teaching my company to really kind of give their all, even if it's ballet technique, even though it's folkloric, Haitian folkloric, even though it's contemporary. I just want them to be very invested.
Billy?
I feel like for us, especially with hip-hop, since it's so mainstream and it's a billion-dollar industry and it's put on everything.
But let me interrupt and say, but it wasn't mainstream when you started.
No.
Right. So you should make
So
that
I don't
clear.
know. It could be a good thing. For me, I see it both ways. I think in the right hands, it's a great thing. I think it can be celebrated. I think it can celebrate black men, black women, the black community. But if it's in the wrong hands, it's just about marketing something to make a profit off it. And for our kids today in the inner cities, they think that way because of the strings and the puppet strings and everything else that's involved in it. So it's very important for us, as the Wondertwins, to make sure that we're representing positive black images as men and not anything that my mom would be embarrassed by because it's cultural. Yeah.
Jose?
Well, I think that dance is the one thing that can transcend differences, be they racial, cultural, and so it's something that you learn to appreciate as being very individual. And so there are no two people who dance alike. And so we're all invested in very specific genre, and we're all teaching each other a certain vocabulary. But ultimately, what we're really looking for is to see how that individual embraces that vocabulary, whatever it be. And when that happens, that person has gained a new ability to communicate with virtually anyone through that honest expression.
Mm-hmm. So, but your main focus when you started was ballet. I mean, you're now doing dance, the dance world community, as you said, your project. And there was a lot of ballet around, to be frank. I mean, that's always appreciated in this country because it's Euro classical. So I'm trying to get at what you brought, that you saw something that was not happening until you applied what you knew from your experience and how you taught.
Right. I grew up, everyone dances in Cuban culture, in most cultures, but some cultures, I think, are more permissive with their young people and allow them to express themselves through movement, and I think I was fortunate to be able to do that. No one tried to shut me down. And ballet was an interest I acquired much later in life. I saw it as a form that really needed to find a truer expression, an essence that really exists in every form of dance. But ballet had become so technical, and its audiences had been taught to appreciate the technical rather than that essential quality that the individual can bring to it. That I wanted to see if I could do that, if I could create dances and train dancers to really express something more essential than the mechanical aspects of the art form that were being most applauded.
Mm-hmm. Shaumba, same question to you. And I should say that you're originally from the Congo, so people may assume that all folks, black folks who dance, bring some Africanness to it, but you really are bringing the African for real.
Yes. So we bring honesty, truth, passion, grit, integrity, culture, and history to what we do with our young people. We want to make sure they understand where it came from. It came from Africa. They need to know what part it came from. They need to know how it's connected. So how hip hop's connected to Africa, how's ballet connected to Africa. They need to know those things, and it's important for them to understand that history.
What are the challenges for folks of color who are in dance? Challenges in general and challenges in Boston, because a lot of folks say Boston's sort of the waiting room for New York, but none of you may have gone to New York at various points in your career, but you stayed here and built. I'll start with you, Joan.
To me, Boston is a complex place when it comes to folks like me of color who really wants to create things magical. Because to me, I feel like I left Boston to go to New York, study at the Alvin Ailey, and studied with the Joffrey Ballet, touring a little bit. And for me, coming back here, I feel like people are always undermine you and trying to question, about, do you really know what you're doing, or do you really able to do what you're doing? And to me, it's kind of like I always have to prove myself day by day. I've been doing my work now in Boston for the past 20 years, and it's still a struggle. But also, I feel like Boston also to have, as Jose said, there is, I don't think you said that, but for me, I feel like people are always waiting for you to do a ballet piece. And to me, I feel like ballet's been there, and it's been around. And I think now there is a new generation who's really doing a lot of versatile, dance. And to me, I feel like bringing my own culture and also influence it by everything that I've seen around when I travel. I just want to have Boston to just open their eyes and do something more than ballet.
Well, I mean, even you would say, Jose, that ballet is not ballet as it used to be thought of. I mean, you talked about what you did to sort of change the way people looked at it from just the technical aspect in terms of that being brilliant. But you yourself have said there's plenty of racism in the dance world out here, and definitely in Boston.
Absolutely. When we first debuted our company in 1987 at the Strand Theatre, we didn't even know enough to write a press release, but somehow the press was there, and I remember we got written up in the Globe, and the first sentence was started, in a town that's traditionally inhospitable to dance. And I was shocked by that. I didn't realize I had entered that kind of community, that kind of city. I couldn't imagine anyone being inhospitable to dance, but you discover that that generally is the environment here. But of course, dance is not the only thing it's inhospitable to. And I think part of that comes from a particular kind of racism where dance is relegated to a particular function, and that's only some kinds of dance. And I think what's happening now is very interesting because we're now in a global kind of climate, and so everyone finds out about all the dance that's everywhere. Ballet was one of the first international forms, and so people thought it worthy enough to spread around the world. It didn't come into America until the 20th century, so it's a very young art form, but ultimately it's an ethnic form. And so my challenge was, how do you take this ethnic form that has its roots in the French and Italian courts of Europe and really make it something that's not just comprehensible but desirable for just any person, because there is something essentially wonderful about it. But that's not an easy task. And you're labeled a ballet company, and so there's a certain expectation, and that expectation includes perceptions that we're trying to actually dismiss ourselves.
So speaking of global, Billy, I mean, when you started out, you and your brother, the Wondertwins, started out, you ended up taking hip-hop, the original hip-hop, around the world. It's now globally recognized in terms of the dance form, even though you have the caveat of a lot of stuff out there is not what you consider to be hip-hop. But my point is, how have you seen that be sort of open up people's thoughts and ideas about not just what dance is all about, but what the contribution of folks of color, because that's an original designed and created by folks of color genre.
Yes. With hip-hop, before the actual name hip-hop, it was just dance. It was black dance. I think when the name was put onto hip-hop, it just opened the door for a lot of different things, a lot of different people to see it. But before the name hip-hop, it was just dance. And I think people see whatever they see the most, they're going to think is hip-hop. And hip-hop is everywhere. So with the Wondertwins, and I'm speaking in third person, which I never do, and I know people are going to laugh at that, but I'm speaking in third person. Because your brother makes up the other part. So he's behind me. Okay. Getting people to see hip-hop in the theaters for us is a struggle. Getting the people that go to see ALE, go to see Ron K. Brown, seeing these different artists, getting those people to come see a hip-hop show and see it as something that's different than what they see on So You Think You Can Dance or America's Best Dance Crew is the struggle. Because there's so many different elements in hip-hop. If hip-hop can't be sensitive and show love, then I don't know what other dance form can do that. Because hip-hop came from something. Like street dance came from because we didn't have an opportunity to have a studio. Graffiti came because we didn't have an art studio, so we had to show people how talented we were in the street and do this and take a chance on being arrested. We had to rap on the corner because we didn't have no money to go into the studio. So it comes from something that's like really painful, but we just made it beautiful. So what we see now, and as we travel, we show up like the Nicholas brothers. Like we make sure that you don't know where we're getting our outfits from. We come in shiny clothes. They don't think that that's hip hop, which is very offensive. And I think that's the race part of it. They think we're supposed to be there. And I'm not saying anything about dancing with your shirt off or anything. It has nothing to do with that. But there's so many different elements to hip hop that if you come there with something that they're not used to seeing, they question whether it's hip hop. Because
it's framed in stereotype.
Complete stereotypes.
Hoodie.
Yes.
Hoodie, and that's a segment. I mean, that's where we're from. I mean, I was at the Joseph Lee School since 1980. So we're from that. We have to travel through all these different streets. We have to avoid gang activity. In fact, we have people that, I want to dance now. Because I see you all dancing. You came from Gibson Street. I can dance too. So we come from all that beauty, but once we get on the stage, we show something, we might show something different elements to it. And I think getting people to the theater to see that is always a struggle, especially here in Boston. There's some place that we're blessed to be able to dance at. You know, there's a lot of places, but it is a struggle to put it out there and to get other audiences to see it, because it could change their way of thinking of, you know, when a young black boy says, I'm a dancer, but he's in a t-shirt and sweatpants, they don't say, well, you don't look like a dancer. You're like, yeah, I'm a dancer. Okay, let me see you do something. No, you're not going to see it, but I am a dancer. Come to my show.
Right. And just for people who don't know the Nicholas brothers, that was Fayard and Harold.
Yes.
Fayard was the choreographer. They're both passed on now. If people go and look at some of the black and white films from back in the day, they have a very famous routine of coming down a huge staircase where they do splits over each other's heads and while dancing. They were well-known tappers. Fred Astaire said of them that they were the best dancers he had ever seen, if you needed that validation. And I just want to make sure everybody knew. So Shaumba, same question to you about the challenges and the racism out here, because you are now presenting authenticity. You're doing hip hop, but you come with, hey, from the continent, and this is what it is.
Yes.
And what are you met with? Billy has just said it's often hard to get people to see it as what it is.
I believe it is hard to get different audiences to understand that when we bring something to the table, we bring the truth, and we're really good at what we do. I think that some people are set in their ways, so they just want to see that specific company every time they go to the theater, and they're not really open to bringing in other cultures and other races. And it's important for us, although it's difficult, to continue to do it, because what we're doing is important. What we're doing should be valued, and we have a story to tell. And so there are some theaters in Boston that it is difficult to bring our work because they want to keep their same
lineup.
all the time, and don't want to expand, although there are people that would love to see them expand. So there is some racism here. But I'm here in Boston because my family's here, and the young people that I serve are here. And I love watching them learn here and then take it outside of Boston to, perform and to teach and to give back to other, countries and cities. And so I'm here. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because it's important and it's valued. And I'm hoping that the theaters and the people in Boston will wake up a little bit more and understand the importance of what we're doing.
So what has globalism done for you? Because now people can be aware of other forms outside of their immediate space. Has that helped bring people to the table more in terms of appreciating the work that you're doing?
I think it's helped with African dance a great deal. I'm a person that believes that everyone can dance, regardless of what people think. I believe everyone can move. And I've noticed that when I was younger, we were picked on a lot because we're African, from people that look like us and people that didn't look like us. And it was a tough environment. And being African was not acceptable. It wasn't cool. And over the last few years, I've watched everyone, in their African attire, listening to African music, or trying to play the djembe and doing African dance.
Going to Black Panther.
Yes, going to Black Panther in there, and some people would sit back and go, oh, now everyone wants to be African. But I appreciate the fact that people are recognizing the importance of it, because it was first. And now everyone's doing African dance, and there's Afro beats, and there are music videos, and you see people that you wouldn't even think would try African dance trying it. So I think it's important. There are a lot of young people, boys, a lot of young men that are invested in African dance, and I think it's a beautiful thing to see. So I love it. I love the fact that social media is growing African dance to the amount it's growing. I think it's beautiful.
None of you are at the end of your careers. I know you're changing where you're going in yours, Jose. You're all well awarded, well appreciated through the kinds of credentials. If people are looking for your credentials, you all got them. Okay. Well, so I think it's fascinating that each of you are really driven to teach. And young people, I wish you'd talk about what that means to you, Joan. You've been going to Port-au-Prince every summer, aside from the work that you do here in Boston, just to give that back.
To me, it means the world, because growing up in Haiti, my father was killed there in 1991. I didn't have nothing to really help me grow. So to me, dance was the only medium that I can go through. Even now, the emotion is still in my heart. To see me overcome the tragedies, to see me running with my brothers, my family, going to hide in different places in Haiti, and now to see me become a teacher and going back to Haiti, teaching kids who were pretty much in the worst condition than I was in Haiti. It really kind of blessed, and it's a blessing in this, in my heart to see me able to go to my country to do that, because my country has been very sick for over 35 years. Pretty much, you see kids trying to do better, but they don't have nobody. No one.
And I should mention that I think all of you have said that it's not just teaching the dance, that whether or not the kids that come through your program end up as dancers is not really the point, Billy. It's really about empowerment and enrichment.
And the discipline. We've always said we wanted to do what our dance teacher did for us. Even before we got on stage, our dance teacher, we had one dance teacher, David Vaughn, from the Joseph Lee School in 1980. And we've always said we want to do what he did for us. Before we got on the stage, as far as just coming to practice, making sure you go to school to do your homework. You can't dance unless your homework is done. You can't perform if your white sneakers are dirty. You better take care of them. You can't perform if your white gloves are dirty. Like all these different things, and it seems like it's like so, but it taught us so much discipline. So that's the way we are. We work in the Boston Public School System for 20 years now. We are directors of Project Rise, which is going on 24 years. So we're constantly giving back. And I think for all of us as dancers, we have to give back. And we can't wait for someone else to take care of our community, because that's not their job. And I always say, it's not anyone's job. If I don't do it, then there's a whole bunch of kids who's going to miss out on what I can give them, whether it's something small or whether it's something big. Because I never know what's the effect of it. I don't know what they're going to do after that. I could say something 4 years ago, and then they'll turn 24, and they're like, hey, Mr. McLain, remember when you said, when I dance, I slouch? I don't slouch no more. And I'm like, hey, you with a company now? Yeah, I'm with a company. Like, all those different things are magical. But if we're not there to do it, no one's going to do it.
That's right.
Yeah. Shaumba?
I absolutely agree. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? We have to be able to go to, funerals for our young people. We have to be able to sit in on parent-teacher conferences if their parent or teacher can't do it. We have to hold them accountable for their grades.
Yes.
We have to help them find their voices to stand up to bullies or to their family if they're feeling like they're being picked on by family members. We have to big up them when other people don't do it. And it's important. If they want to be a dancer, that's fabulous. If they want to be a doctor or a teacher or own their own cleaning service, we have to treat them all the exact same. And we have to make sure we hold them accountable, we're honest with them, and we big up them when they need it. We have to do it.
Jose?
Well, yeah, young people are both in need of what we can offer, but they're also inspiration to us. And so, in a sense, they're the ones that keep us young. And especially when the dancing itself is not at the high gear that it may have been when we were younger. It's still something that's within us, and it's the young people that seem to bring it out of us. And so sometimes when you think that you've had enough, some young person will come around and remind you, no, you have a gift, and you also have an obligation. And they make that so clear. And so it's a wonderful thing to be able to give in that particular way.
Do you see that as a cultural legacy?
Yes, I think so. I think dance has always been that for everyone. And so we don't, well, now we retain some material on tapes, but it's not something you pass down through the written word or even an oral history. It's something that has to happen live, and one generation passes it on to the next. And there's something almost innately wired within us that asks that we pass that on. And the young people constantly remind us that, yes, that is our duty.
That's right.
Well, that's the end of our broadcast and the end of the 50th season. I want to thank all of my guests for joining me, and I want to ask all of you now to stay with us as we continue our conversation on Facebook, as we have a lot more to say about legacy and responsibility as artists and as artists of color. Good night.